Hey guys, before this video starts, not that you wonder, it was one of my very first videos that I filmed, especially by standing in front of the camera, which was quite new and a bit uncomfortable for me, even before I started voice-overing other videos. So as a German person, it was sometimes quite hard finding the correct words, and so I had to cut out some pieces and correct some pieces, so please do not wonder, it sounds a bit strange at some parts for my language, but I just wanted to share the video anyways, because tracing is, well, often a topic for artists, so I thought, why not? So enjoy the video. Bye-bye. Good morning guys and welcome home. It's quite early in the morning and it's raining today. So I thought I start some new projects and therefore I wanted to tell you something about tracing your artwork. So if you don't know what tracing is, I will show you some different techniques on how you can trace your artwork and tell you why this is not a bad thing to do. So come on over to my computer and I will show you the first way to trace something. This would be an LCD projector. This is the photo that I want to trace, and I wanted it to be on a quite large canvas. So this guy over here. It is as big as me, so I want him to be quite large, and therefore I thought an LCD projector would be nice to see how the image fits to the canvas. And I made it dark again. First important thing for the LCD projector, if you want to project something on your canvas or your paper, make sure it is as dark as you can make it in your flat. It is way easier to see the outlines, especially when the object is far away that you want to trace. Either do it at night when it's dark outside, or if you have the possibility to shut out the light from your flat by screening your windows, make it as dark as possible. So come over here. First thing to notice, depending on the projector type that you have and well, the power that it has, the further away the object is, the more grainy and pixel-like the image will be. So if you have a look here, it looks quite nice projected, but when you come closer, you will see that there are many small dots and squares, so it is not that easy to draw a perfect outline. So to be really safe that this is the correct outline that you want to have in your drawing or painting. So therefore for such large images I would suggest using a different method. I will show it to you afterwards. But for smaller images this LCD projector works quite well. I usually take this method just to demonstrate or to check if the image itself looks good on the canvas, if the composition of the drawing image, what you've created, looks good in the size that you want to have it. So the next drawing that I want to start is a charcoal one and a bit smaller on a normal paper, I'd say. So this one I've put on MDF board and taped it so that it's flat and put it on my easel, and you can see it here. It's a bit smaller, it's the same guy, and when you get up closer you can see still the pixels and the little squares, but it is way less in this distance than it was on a big canvas. So it is easier for me to make the outlines in this size. What you need to keep in mind when you do this, you must have the LCD projector and your easel or paper, wherever you have it on, exactly straight and even. Otherwise the picture itself will be out of shape and will look strange in the end. So even if you tilt your canvas, I hope you can see this, tilt the canvas a bit, so just sideways, the image itself still looks like the image that you project on it because your eye still recognize it, but when you draw it in the end, the proportions are off. Actually, this is the most important thing for portraits or for people drawings, paintings. If you do landscapes and such, this is not that much of a deal because you will not notice if something is half of a centimeter off, but especially in faces you will see that something looks strange in the end when the picture is wrong. So version number 2 for tracing will be an overhead projector. So you might have seen this in school or at work or in the museum. I don't know if these are still used in schools, but I think so. When I was at school, these things were everywhere. So this is how it looks. So, quite big, quite bright. There are smaller versions, but they are way more expensive, so I stick with this one. I got this little guy, I don't know, many years ago from eBay. It was quite cheap and used and doing his job ever since. I use it to trace things in larger sizes. So what you have to do is just print the original image on clear film, or I don't know what the English word is, something like this. Put it on here and you can change the size of the final image depending on how far your canvas is away from the projector. So if it's closer, the image gets smaller. If it's far away, the image gets bigger. And when I get close, you can see that the outlines are really sharp. Way easier to get perfect outlines. Same rules for this one. So make sure that your canvas is straight, that your projector is straight, and that you are not tilted in any direction. So when you can see here in the upper corner, you see that the image is tilted on the canvas. So make sure that your canvas is in the right position, that each corner is straight. You can also use the grid method here as well, just to make sure that your image transfers correctly on the canvas. So, and just to give you an impression, zoom in, this is the overhead projector version, transferred to the large scale canvas. And this is the guy using the LCD projector version. Actually, this was the canvas that you can see in my gesturing video on my channel. If you like to know what I did there, just head over and have a look. As you can see, I left out the face for the details because I was not able to see this really good. So I use this opportunity to show you the third way to trace something. To do so, you can use tracing paper. It looks like this. So this is just a paper where you can see through. You can also use baking paper if you like. It works just the same way. You put this over your screen or your photo or whatever you want to trace and just draw the outlines to this kind of paper. What you can do in the end, if you have transferred it, you can put it over the paper and go over the lines with another pencil. It does not need to be a pencil, just something to make pressure on it. What we can see here, you can see the initial drawing underneath, and so it fits quite well, but in some parts the tracing from the LCD projector did not work 100%, so I can correct this right now by copying the picture from my tracing paper. If you want to trace it, make sure you flip the picture around on your computer so that you have the correct position when you want to trace it. So why is tracing a good idea? When you start with arts and you go for tracing something, you will read and hear more than often that tracing is cheating, because you don't really create something yourself, or you don't draw freehand because only a freehand is really art. Well, why actually? This is something strange. You need to decide this for your own. But in my opinion, even if you trace something, if you have no understanding of values and light and color, you can trace as good as you can. You will not be able to create a good art piece in the end. So tracing is, in my opinion, just a tool that you can use. Like each accountant will use a calculator. So try telling an accountant that a calculator is cheating, or that you use a computer. It is, in my opinion, just a tool that makes your life easier and has nothing to do with being a less good artist or lacking some skills or whatsoever. It's just saving time, makes your drawing and painting more accurate, and your end result will look much better. And also, by tracing, you do learn to freehand as well. Because if you traced faces over and over and over again, you will in the end know how proportions work, how eyes look, how noses look, how a mouth look, and you can put this way easier into perspective than you could probably do this when you start with arts and freehand something. I experienced this myself when I started. I tried to freehand as much as I can, and I always was afraid of doing faces and humans. I was always fascinated by humans, and I wanted to do portraiture and human faces in general, but I just could not do it. So at one point I decided to trace it, and when I started tracing faces, I really used so many lines. I traced each and every shadow that there was on the reference picture, made little dots and outlines and everything that you can imagine, just to be sure to have every little thing transferred to the paper. So this is how it looks, and you can see it is way more accurate. So even when you use as much line as you need or as you want, that's not much of a deal. You will see that the more often you use this method, you will use less and less lines to be able to achieve the final look that you want to achieve. Now I just outline the basic stuff like the edge of the nose or the outlines of the face, the eyes. So just the basic stuff, and you'll be able to shadow in the rest once you're starting shading in your drawing. In case you do not have an LCD projector or an overhead projector, this is no problem at all. These both methods are mostly used for large scale. What you can also use are these thingies. These are transfer papers. You might know this as well, perhaps from school or don't know. They come in different colors. This is a blue one. I also have a red one and a white one. The color itself actually is not interesting, I think. But I would only use these ones if you paint over it, because you cannot erase it in the end. So if you use these to transfer something to your paper, you might not be able to get rid of the outlines. So it works quite simple. It has here a colorful side. This one lays down on the paper. You put your image over it, and with any tool that you can create a pressure, whatever you want to use, go over the lines and they will transfer to your paper. The sharper the point, the sharper your transferred line will also be. So, and you will see it is quite hard to erase it completely. So depending on the paper you're drawing on, and you cannot press too hard. Well, I'm not sure if you can see it. So this is still left. If you go over it quite dark, it will be okay. If you have a soft shadow transition, you might see it through, so not the best way to do it. If you have a painting and paint over it, it should not be such of a deal, and the lines will be not visible. If you use a darker background like gray, or if you have toned your canvas down with raw umber or sienna or any base layer color, you can use the white transfer paper. It works just the same way, but gives you a white outline, which is quite useful for a darker background, because this stands out quite well. Even if you started drawing or painting and want to check if your proportions are still what they should be, I do this sometimes as well, even especially for portraits. When you've done your initial portrait, just put your tracing paper over it, and you can see if some of the proportions for the nose, for the eyes, whatever, is a bit off. And if so, just put your transfer paper under it, draw over it, and you will see the white lines on your painting, and you can correct it accordingly. So this is something quite helpful, in my opinion. And the last method that I want to show you, that I know or occasionally use, is this thingy here. It is called a scale divider. This one was done by Derwent. I don't really like it so much because it's too thick in my opinion. So I will go look for something thinner, because you can see it's quite thick, so it's half a centimeter each side. And what it does, so if you open it, you can translate the dimensions. So if you want to trace an eye, for example, you can measure the eye, which is here, and on the other side you will have your transition length. You can change this by unscrewing here and putting the screw back in place at the position that you want, and so the angle gets narrower. So if you want to use the eye again, you see it is, well, perhaps double the size right now when you transfer it. So this is something you can use. You must check and double check different points to have the final drawing correctly transferred to your paper, and it's quite some time consuming in my opinion. It is nice to check if your proportions are correct while you're drawing once it's already on the paper, but I really did not use it to transfer something in the first place. And as these are quite thick, it is not really good to handle, in my opinion. If you like, just try them out. It's not the most expensive thing. I think it was €8 or so. And I've seen some better and thinner metallic versions, which might be better. I don't know. And that's basically all for today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope it was of any help for you. If you have any questions to any of these methods, just let me know in the comments or write me an email. You can contact me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube. So whatever you like, I would be happy to hear from you. And yeah, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, or come back to the next video. Looking forward to hear from you and seeing you. Bye bye!